always good to get a fresh perspective on football and refereeing from another sport, from another star. And that's why we're here at the Hallamshire Tennis and Squash Club in Sheffield, which is home, or second home, to the 3 times world squash champion, Nick Matthew. Nick, thanks for joining us. You're a keen football fan. That's your qualification for this chat. You support a team here in this city too, don't you?
Yeah, I'm a big Wednesday fan, big Wednesdayite. I'm 35 now. I've been following them since I was 6-7 years old, really. I remember my first game at Hillsborough. Used to be Premier League team or First Division back in those days, so hopefully those days are not too far away again.
You watch keenly. You've got a column in the local newspaper talking about all sport, not just football, not just squash. But your sport, people would think it's perhaps a bit upper class, the etiquette, you know, around the court, quite gentlemanly, can I say? And yet you're tigers out there, and it must be difficult for the referees at times, is it?
It's incredibly difficult. My nickname on court, on tour, I'm known as the Wolf, because I like to sort of get in the face of my opponents, occasionally in the face of the referee. Squash is very unique in that the referee is sat within the crowd. Many years ago, the referee was sat on top of the glass, sort of on a ladder at the top overlooking the court, and that's the best location for a squash referee, being close to play. However, the advent of TV, that was terrible because the referee was getting in the way of the different cameras angles. So they now sit in the crowd. So sometimes not easy to keep control of the game from there, surrounded by the audience as well. And
is that a regressive move for you then? Should that be the case?
The nature of some squash tournaments and the way we can put a squash court anywhere, so you can put a court in Grand Central Terminal in New York in front of the pyramids. We've got a tournament in Dubai coming up in front of the Burj Khalifa, the world's tallest building. So we play in some amazing venues. Therefore, the structure is temporary, and the seating goes around for spectators' benefit. If you put a ref blocking spectators' view, you've got a problem. So they do have to sit in what's probably not the ideal location for them to get a view of it. How we've tried to counteract that, squash has 3 referees now as just opposed to 1. So 1 central, 2 who have the view from the side, and it's the majority decision of the 3. And then we do have a video review system now, so each player has 1 challenge per game. If you get it right, you keep it. And then you get an additional challenge at a tie-break situation at 10-all in a game as well. So that's been a great insight, and then that goes to sort of a 4th official who has the the possibility of video, slow-mos, different angles to make a more informed decision on crucial moments.
So now we have cricket, we have tennis, we have rugby union, rugby league, all bowing to the value of technology, and football only just embracing it. Has that surprised you?
It's incredibly surprising when you see how seamlessly it's settled into the sports now. You know, in cricket, if it's an LBW, straight away, even if the other team's not reviewed, you want to see, well, actually, would it have hit the stumps? And it's bizarre, especially something as black and white as if it's crossed the line. Why that just wasn't implemented as soon as they had the technology to do it is beyond me, and I just don't understand it at all. I understand the argument, to what extent do you use the technology, because you don't want to break the game up. You do see some American sports, for example, they seem to have a review for everything now, and the game goes on for hours and hours and hours, and you don't want to lose that flow of football. But something as black and white as did the ball cross the line, I'm surprised it didn't come in 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
Well, you have a natural break in squash, don't you? At the end of a point, you can review something. Yeah. It's not quite as easy in football. An appeal system is something that's been discussed for football, although video referees may look to correct anything and everything rather than just wait for an appeal.
It's tough, exactly like in squash, you've got the rules, but it's the interpretation of those rules by the referee, which is the most important thing. So there's very many decisions, like that let decision in stroke. You have to decide, is the player making every effort to get to the ball? Is his opponent making every effort to get out of the way of the ball? How good was the actual shot? There's a lot of different variables that can happen, much like in football. It's not black and white decision. That's why it's a great sport for people to chat about. It creates debate. People like controversy because that gives talking points in the pub, for example, and you could have a million camera angles, replays, and you still might not be able to say whether it definitely was a penalty or not. So I understand both arguments, but personally I would think it would be something worth trialling in a smaller tournament before bringing it to the Premier League, maybe like one review per game for each team that has to be captain led, because on the bench they could have access maybe to the technology before they actually review. Someone could be on the phone in the crowd or whatever, but I think if the captain made that decision, we get a review. We thought that was offside. You know, you can review once a game, and if you get it right, you keep it.
You're known as the Wolf in squash, and I've seen you on the box. It's not so much what you've said to referees as the way you look at them.
Face says 1,000 words, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, clearly there's a limit to what you can say. I mean, you don't get that abuse problem in squash.
I think when I've been
Not
younger,
verbally, anyway.
when I was younger, I think as a lot of people, especially a sport as passionate and as active as football or squash, there's a lot of emotions, a lot of testosterone on there, close space, you're in each other's. You have to be physical because your opponent's in your space. Sometimes that can boil over. I personally admit I've said things to referees that have been out of line when I was younger. Hopefully not too many as I've matured as a player. The 3 refereeing decision has certainly helped cut down on that, because now it's not just one person who some people might think, oh, you've got something personal against me. It's a majority decision. If you don't like it, instead of, oh, why did you give that against me? Review. You put your hand up and you review.
You can accept it.
You accept it and you can challenge it if you feel that strongly about it. And what's interesting is a player might not agree with the decision, but then he won't review. So then you realise, well, actually, you're not that sure, are you? So the review system has actually found out actually the real reason behind why people might argue with the decision, and that's to get rid of their own emotion, not because they necessarily are that confident in their argument, if that makes sense.
What's your view then as a football fan, and being a top pro in another sport, of the way football behaves towards referees, both the participants and the spectators?
It's scary. I remember going to Twickenham a couple of years ago, first time I ever saw England play live, and they were playing the Springboks, and the South African fans and the England fans just merging together. Everyone was eating, drinking together. There wasn't that edge to it that football fans have. I was in Manchester a couple of days ago when the PSG fans were coming into town, and I was glad I was leaving at that point, because football sometimes has that edge, and I don't know what it is about football that brings that, because rugby, for example, has more physical confrontation than football, doesn't it? So I just like the way the players respect the referee in football. I think
in rugby.
In rugby, in rugby. In football, it could improve big time. I understand the heat of the emotion. Players disagree. There's livelihoods, everything else, promotion, relegation on the line, but it needs to, I think, improve, because it's not setting a great example.
What can be done? Is the onus on the players and the managers to change, or is the onus on the referees to get tougher?
I think it has to be a joint effort. One thing that squash has got a lot better at in the last couple of years is the players and the referees were quite separated before, and now the governing body, the PSA, is appointed someone full-time as a referees coordinator, and they're working with both parties, and now there's a lot more dialogue, a lot more communication, and things are moving in the right direction rather than them being too separate. And I think...
So this is at a tournament, you've got a referee coordinator, yeah?
Yeah, and we're always being proactive, so if there's things, they're studying matches and tournaments and how many decisions and what's too many decisions, what's not enough, well, not enough, but what's too many, why are they happening? Is it the player's fault? Could the ref control that game? But he's always looking at this and trying to improve the game from a flow. The best squash game is one that the referee is not involved, much like it is at football. You don't notice the referee, and he's generally had a good game.
But this let rule, and I was looking at it today prior to coming here, and I wouldn't want to referee that let rule. It's so complicated. Is it too complex? Really?
I think so. That's one of the things he's tried to clear up. Trying to make players, educate players to play the ball and not always be looking for that contact, looking for the referee. Clearing the ball as well. It's a two-way street because there's two players on there. As I said, in football, I do think that the rules can be too strict, and it doesn't allow enough room for that personal touch, that interpretation of the rules, which I think the best refs are always the ones that just chat with the players and just diffuse a situation. Sometimes now it's so black and white, and they're not allowed to express any personality into it almost, and then it gets very robotic, and I think that's somewhere which can be improved.
It seems the dialogue has gone out of the game in that respect. I think partly because of the huge focus that's on it. TV cameras, people can lip read, and the referee trading the language of the game is going to get into trouble from his bosses, and that's a bit of a sad thing, really. That's had to go out of it.
A referee could be applying common sense, but then could get demoted the next week because they've not applied the letter of the law, and that doesn't make any sense to me.
Oh. So what would you change about football apart from, is it mainly about video technology bringing in, embracing it? Is there anything else you'd change about the game?
I think that it could embrace technology more without it ruining the flow of the game if they get it right. Certainly introducing, is it a goal or not, at all levels with the sensors or however you do it. One challenge per team per match I would trial with a captain leading it, much like in cricket, and take it from there, because I think that there are clear matches where there was an offside goal that's gone in and the other team's not, and that could be the difference between you going down at the end of the season and costing you £60 million, whatever it is now, to stay in the Premier League. So I think it's important, not always easy to say, is it a penalty when the ball hits the hand from 2 metres away? So you'd have to sort of say, you're only allowed to use it for, did the ball cross the line, or is it offside? Things that are black and white. But I don't see why football shouldn't embrace it, much like rugby league has. And you see on the big screen, is it a try or not? Is it a goal or not? And don't think it would delay the game too much.
Okay, don't want to delay you from going on court and resuming your academy here at Hallamshire. It's great that you're looking to the future and you're still playing at a high level, but you're actually kind of putting something back really now, aren't you?
Yeah, every Thursday we have an academy squad at Hallamshire. It's a big passion project of mine, just inspiring the next generation of kids. It is based at Hallamshire. This is the home of my squash academy, but upon my retirement we'll be taking it sort of countrywide and worldwide, hopefully, and spreading the word of this great sport that's given me sort of my whole life, really.
Nick, it's been a pleasure seeing you again, and good luck and thanks very much indeed.
Cheers.
Take care.
All right,
Cheers.
Pleasure. Cheers.